In 1752 in Philadelphia, a man was flying a kite in the middle of a storm. The sky was dark, rain was pouring down, lightning was splitting the sky. But this man was standing with his son in an open field, sending a silk kite toward the storm clouds. What he was doing was madness, because if lightning struck, both would burn. But this man was pursuing something that would change the world. No risk could stop him. Tonight, we will discover together the story of America's most versatile genius, the man who captured lightning, Benjamin Franklin. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and write in the comments where you're following us from. Now let's dive into the greatest scientific adventure of the 18th century. Benjamin Franklin was born on January 17th, 1706 in Boston, as the child of a poor family. His father was a candle maker. He was the 10th of 17 children. He could only attend school for 2 years because the family couldn't afford the tuition. At 12 years old, he began working as an apprentice in his brother James's printing shop. But their relationship was terrible because James constantly belittled him, tried to crush him. Benjamin secretly began sending letters to his brother's newspaper. He created a fictional widow woman named Silence Dogood. The letters he wrote in this woman's voice were humorous, intelligent, sharply criticizing society. They quickly gained great popularity. When he revealed his identity, his brother became angry because he couldn't tolerate his little brother being so talented. The pressure increased, the crushing efforts intensified. Finally, in 1723, 17-year-old Benjamin decided to escape. He had only a few pennies in his pocket, but inside him burned an unquenchable fire of determination. He traveled for days, suffered hunger. When he arrived in Philadelphia, he resembled a poor vagabond, but there was a determination in his eyes. This determination kept him standing. In Philadelphia, he found work at Samuel Keimer's printing shop. Pennsylvania Governor William Keith made him an offer. If he went to London and obtained printing equipment, he could establish his own business with the governor's support. Benjamin excitedly accepted, went to London in 1724. But Keith had lied, never provided the support he promised. Benjamin was stranded in London, without money, without support, alone in the middle of the big city. He had been deceived. Here, Benjamin's true character emerged. This was the turning point. He didn't collapse because he was one of those who never gave up. He worked in London printing shops, saved money. For 18 months he both survived and improved himself. When he returned to Philadelphia, he came back as a stronger, more knowledgeable, more determined person. Betrayal hadn't broken him, it had strengthened him. In 1728, he finally established his own printing shop. When he bought the Pennsylvania Gazette newspaper in 1729, this move changed everything. The newspaper quickly became one of the colony's best newspapers. In 1732, he began publishing an annual publication called Poor Richard's Almanac. Published every year, this book contained calendar information, weather forecasts. But Benjamin's publication was different. Every page was filled with wise sayings, proverbs, practical advice. Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise, he wrote. Time is money, he said. These words became so embedded in American culture that they're still used today. This publication continued for 25 years. Benjamin became both famous and wealthy. But wealth wasn't Benjamin's goal. His desire to contribute to society constantly pushed him to new projects. In 1731, He founded America's first public library. People paid a membership fee. In return, they could borrow books. In 1736, he founded Philadelphia's first volunteer fire brigade. In 1743, he founded the American Philosophical Society. This society brought together scientists, thinkers, inventors. In 1751, he led the establishment of Pennsylvania Hospital. He advocated that health care was everyone's right. Benjamin did much for society, but his true passion was science. This passion would immortalize him. Electricity especially fascinated him. In the 1740s, electricity had just been discovered. Scientists could produce electric shocks, create sparks. But they didn't fully understand what electricity was, how it worked. At that time, electricity was entertainment. Shows were held in parlors. People got shocked. Everyone was amazed. But it wasn't taken seriously as a scientific subject. Benjamin took electricity seriously. This would be his life's turning point. In 1746, a friend sent him Leyden jars from Boston. These glass jars could store static electricity. As soon as Benjamin saw them, he was captivated. He immediately began conducting experiments. His first experiments were simple but instructive. He rubbed glass rods with cat fur, produced static electricity. Then he stored this electricity in Leyden jars. When he touched the jar, he got shocked. These shocks were painful, but Benjamin was curious. He noted every experiment, wrote his observations. He turned the upper floor of his printing shop into a laboratory. He conducted experiments day and night. Then he began doing more complex experiments. One day he invited friends to dinner. He planned to cook an electrified turkey. It would be a show where the turkey would be killed and cooked with electric shock. But he made a mistake. He accidentally applied a powerful shock to himself. The shock was so strong he fainted. For a moment, he thought he would die. When he woke up, his arms were numb. There was pain in his chest. But after a few minutes, he recovered. Then he made jokes. "I planned to electrify a turkey, but a goose got electrified," he said to himself. This incident didn't slow him down. It pushed him to be more careful. While Benjamin was studying electricity, he disagreed with the theories of the period's scientists. At that time, it was believed there were two types of electricity: glass electricity and resin electricity. When you rubbed a glass rod with cat fur, one type of electricity formed. When you rubbed a resin rod with wool, another type of electricity formed. It was believed to be two different things. Benjamin reached a different conclusion based on his observations. He proposed that electricity was a single fluid. There were states of excess and deficiency. This thought was revolutionary. Benjamin invented the concepts of positive and negative charge. He called excess electricity positive charge, deficient electricity negative charge. These terms are still used today. These concepts are in every physics textbook because Benjamin Franklin discovered them. He also developed the concepts of conductor and insulator. He tested which materials conducted electricity, which blocked it. Metals were conductors. Glass was an insulator. Benjamin wrote letters to friends, shared his findings. These letters reached the Royal Society in London. At first, they weren't taken seriously, because Benjamin was a printer from the colonies without formal education. But his experiments were so convincing that the scientific world began to pay attention. Benjamin conducted more experiments. He discovered that electricity passed more easily through pointed tips. He used blunt-tipped and pointed metal rods. Pointed rods attracted electricity more easily. This discovery would later become very important. Then a bold idea came to Benjamin's mind. This idea would etch him into history. Perhaps lightning is also electricity. For centuries, people had believed lightning was the wrath of the gods. Churches rang bells to protect from lightning. But Benjamin thought this was nonsense. Lightning must be a natural phenomenon. Benjamin saw similarities between lightning and electricity. Both produced light. Both made noise. Both preferred metals. Both ignited flammable materials. Both left a sulfur smell. Both could kill animals. The similarities were too many. Benjamin thought lightning was electricity. If lightning was electricity, it was possible to prove this. Benjamin published an article in 1750. He proposed that lightning was electricity, designed an experiment, placing a long metal rod on a high building, collecting the electricity as lightning passed through the rod. But there was no sufficiently high building in Philadelphia. Benjamin was impatient, wanted proof. He thought of another method. This method was simple but dangerous. A kite. If lightning struck the kite, he could die. But Benjamin was brave, curious. He was ready to take the risk, because learning the truth was more important than anything. On a day in June 1752, as storm clouds approached, Benjamin called to his son William. Together, they went out for a historic experiment. The kite was specially designed. It was made of silk fabric, because silk conducted electricity well when wet. They attached a sharp metal rod to the tip of the kite. This rod would attract lightning. The string was made of hemp thread. They tied a metal key to the end of the string. They tied a silk ribbon below the key. This ribbon would act as an insulator, would protect Benjamin. They launched the kite toward the sky. The kite rose, approached the storm clouds. For a while, nothing happened. Benjamin waited, patiently waiting without taking his eyes off the string. Perhaps he had been wrong. Perhaps lightning wasn't electricity. Then the miracle happened. The hemp fibers in the kite's string began to stand up, as if an invisible force was pulling them, as if they had bristled like feathers. This was a sign of electrical charging. Benjamin's heart was beating rapidly. It was working. Benjamin slowly extended his hand toward the key. Holding the silk ribbon, he approached. When his finger came within a few centimeters of the key, suddenly a spark appeared. A small lightning jumped from his finger to the key. He got shocked, felt pain. But at the same time, he was experiencing one of the greatest feelings of victory in history. He had proven it. Lightning is electricity. Benjamin continued the experiment. He brought the Leyden jar, stored the electricity coming from the key in the jar. Then he conducted experiments with this electricity. He produced sparks from the jar. It was exactly like the electricity he produced in his laboratory. There was no difference. Lightning and electricity were the same thing. The experiment was so dangerous that it was later understood Benjamin was very lucky. A few weeks later, other scientists tried the same experiment. In Russia, Georg Wilhelm Richmann was struck directly by lightning when he conducted the same experiment and died instantly. In Sweden, another scientist also died in a similar accident. Benjamin had only received a small spark, but this was enough because he had obtained proof. Now it was time for practical application. Benjamin wasn't just a theorist, he was also a practical inventor. He invented the lightning rod. The logic was so simple that almost no one had thought of it before. If lightning is electricity, if electricity prefers metal, the solution was obvious. Pointed metal rods should be placed at the highest point of buildings. These rods should be connected to the ground with thick metal cables. Thus, when lightning struck, electricity would pass through the rod, flow down the cable to the ground. The building would be protected. The idea was so simple, so effective, that thousands of buildings were quickly equipped with lightning rods. But the lightning rod created controversy. Some clergymen opposed it. If lightning was God's wrath, people shouldn't try to prevent it. This was challenging God. Benjamin calmly responded, "If making a roof to protect from rain isn't challenging God, then protecting from lightning isn't challenging God either." Some people got into a debate about whether the tip of the lightning rod should be blunt or pointed. Benjamin suggested it should be pointed because a pointed tip attracts electricity better. But when tension increased between England and the colonies, even this became a political issue. The British began using blunt tips because Benjamin suggested pointed tips. Even science couldn't escape politics. This invention prevented countless fires, saved countless lives. Benjamin Franklin had not only advanced science, but had served humanity. The world recognized Benjamin Franklin. The Royal Society gave him the Copley Medal. This was the scientific world's most prestigious award. Harvard, Yale, Oxford universities gave him honorary doctorates. Now Benjamin was not just a printer, but a world-renowned scientist. But he was humble. He only said he was curious, experimented. He never boasted because greatness came with humility. Benjamin's other inventions also made daily life easier. He invented bifocal glasses because he himself couldn't see both far and near, constantly had to change glasses. The solution was ingenious. The upper half of the glasses would be for seeing far, the lower half for seeing near. He invented the Franklin stove because homes were heated with fireplaces, but this was very inefficient. Benjamin designed a metal stove. This stove produced more heat with less wood. People told him to get a patent because he could become very rich with this invention. But Benjamin refused. Inventions should be for humanity's benefit, not for his own gain. In the 1750s, Benjamin's life shifted in a new direction. Now he would be not only a scientist, but also a statesman. He was elected to Pennsylvania's Assembly. He began working for the colonies' rights. Tension between England and the colonies was gradually increasing. England was constantly imposing new taxes, pressuring the colonies. The colonies were angered by this injustice. In 1757, he was sent to London as an ambassador. He stayed in England for 18 years, trying to make the colonies' voice heard. In 1765, the Stamp Act was passed. The colonies revolted. Taxation without representation was tyranny. Benjamin spoke in Parliament in London, criticized the law. He answered questions cleverly, impressed parliamentarians. He was effective in getting the law repealed. But problems didn't end. Tension gradually escalated. In 1773, the Boston Tea Party happened. The colonies dumped British tea into the sea. This was open rebellion. England reacted harshly, passed punitive laws. Benjamin still advocated peace, but it was now impossible. England wouldn't compromise. The colonies couldn't tolerate more pressure. In 1775, Benjamin returned to Philadelphia. Now independence was inevitable. He was entering the most important period of his life. In 1776, he was elected to the committee that prepared the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson wrote the draft, but Benjamin, John Adams, and others worked on it. They corrected words, strengthened expressions. On July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was signed. Benjamin was 70 years old. He was witnessing America's birth. War began. For America to win against England, it absolutely needed help. The British Army was strong, its navy large, its resources unlimited. America seemed to have no chance. In 1776, Benjamin was sent to France as ambassador. His mission was to convince France, to get it to provide America with soldiers, money, naval support. This was a difficult mission because France was hesitant. But Benjamin became a phenomenon in Paris. His simplicity impressed the French. His intelligence enchanted them. His humor endeared him. He met Enlightenment thinkers like Voltaire, made friends in court circles. The French loved him because Benjamin was the American dream itself. He came from an ordinary family, was self-taught, worked for science and freedom. He convinced them. In 1778, France made an alliance with America. It sent soldiers, sent a navy, sent money. This support completely changed the war. In 1783, America's independence was recognized. Benjamin participated in peace negotiations in Paris. He was 77 years old. He had witnessed the birth of a nation. In 1785, he returned to Philadelphia. He was a hero. In 1787, he attended the Constitutional Convention. He was 81 years old. He was the oldest delegate. He didn't speak much, but his wisdom was respected by everyone. The Constitution was controversial. Some states didn't want to accept it. Benjamin made a speech. This Constitution is not perfect, but it's the best Constitution we can have. We must compromise, come together. His words were effective. The Constitution was ratified. In his final years, he turned to anti-slavery activism. In his youth, he owned slaves, but as he aged, his ideas changed. He understood that slavery was immoral. He became president of the Pennsylvania Abolition Society. He submitted a petition to Congress, demanded slavery be abolished. This was his final struggle. On April 17, 1790, Benjamin Franklin died. He was 84 years old. In Philadelphia, 20,000 people attended his funeral. In France, the National Assembly declared 3 days of mourning. The world had lost a genius. Benjamin Franklin wasn't just the man who captured lightning. He was a nation's founder. Born as the son of a candle maker, he became one of America's founders. He never gave up. He changed the world. This is Benjamin Franklin's story. The genius who captured lightning, founded a nation, never lost his curiosity. If you enjoyed this narrative, don't forget to like and subscribe. Write in the comments which historical figure's story you'd like to hear. See you in the next video. Goodbye.